access to the insight of understanding those change agents. This evening, we're talking about fatherhood, fathers first. The individuals here are shaping the hearts and minds of their community. I'd like to welcome my co-host this evening, Osei the Dark Secret, to share Fathers First. I'd also like to welcome Wally Davis, attorney extraordinaire, defending of our people. Chuck Smith, living legend, and of course, a force to be recognized in all those sports, but football for sure. Chuck, you there, brother? Always on the play. You can count on him. Keith Lewis Sr., father extraordinaire, will share his insight as well. Welcome to A Seat at the Table, gentlemen. Mawali, it's your turn, brother. It's all on you. Peace.
Thank you, dear Munson. We appreciate that. I want to welcome you, brothers. We appreciate you being a part of this conversation, A Seat at the Table. And thank you so much to Rolling Out for this platform. We certainly want to continue to expand and redefine the image of Black men everywhere. And I think that this conversation helps to enlighten a lot of people who are learning so much more about what's going on in our families and in our communities. And with that said, I'm very thankful to have Big Chuck Smith, Mawali Davis, as well as Keith Lewis Sr. So I'm not sure who wants to set things off or start, but I want to first start off by welcoming you, but I wanted to really say, what is your child or what's your fatherhood culture like? Perhaps you can speak to that, whoever wants to go first. Keith Lewis Sr., would you like to go first, sir? Well, Chuck, you look like you're ready. Just go ahead, please.
Georgia, who showed me the each and every day. My dad each and every day got up, went to work. He was very active with me. And when I look at the kind of father that I am and the kind of father that my brother is, who was raised by the same dad, he put us in position whether good or bad.
Breaking up.
We can't hear you, Chuck. I'm not sure what is going on as far as our connection. For some reason, obviously you're talking, but it's muted. Maybe while we're getting you situated.
All right. Can you hear me, Osei?
Yes, Mawali, I hear you fine, brother.
Yeah. So, what I heard Chuck saying is a similar experience of, I had my father in my house up until the 8th grade, and then he separated from my mom, which, I saw the impact of that. But when he was there, he got up. He played professional basketball with the Harlem Globetrotters. So I would see him get up, go work out, running in the sand, running hills. He would take me to gyms with him, but he always made breakfast for me. He would make my sandwiches when he was off the road. And so I saw him clean up. I saw him work in the yard. I saw him try to figure it out because he had no relationship with his dad, like any at all. His mom had him when she was 15 years old, and they had come up out of Alabama. She had come out of Alabama and moved into, the south side of Chicago. And so he had no relationship. So he was really trying to figure out what it was to be a father and a husband to that degree. And he did, the best that he could. And it established for me, the things that I try to do with my son. That's what, I think we do is try to build off the legacy of our fathers so that we can be better. So he stayed in the house until I was in 8th grade. I'm still married to my wife after 25 years. my sons, who are one just graduated from Howard University, the other one is a junior there. I'm trying to stay, not trying to, I'm staying, I'm here. We're building, we maintain and building families. So it's just about building off of that legacy of, those that came before you in a family sense. So that's what we've been doing. And I'm thankful for, the opportunity to be the father to my sons that I can be.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that, man. Very powerful insight. Keith Lewis Sr., and then we'll come back to you, Chuck. Definitely want to get your point in there.
Yo,
Not hearing you for some reason. Can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, Mr. Lewis, I can hear you.
Perfect. It sounds like I had a similar upbringing as Brother Davis. My father was around till he started having conflicts with my mother, which she was the one who had the stiff hand, and she was the one who disciplined us in a manner that I adopted myself, which was not to spare the rod. But my father never laid a hand on me. He was just a real kind of a laid back kind of person. I have that some of that personality as well. Very laid back. He didn't really aspire to do a whole lot, but other than just be a good person. In fact, he was a janitor. And I remember when my parents were having issues, my mother would tell me he was on a convention. I knew daggone well there wasn't such thing as a janitorial convention, even at that age. So, I must admit it did have an effect on me in terms of some of the peer pressure that I became victim to. Never really got into serious trouble, but I did sway a little bit, and I think that helped me connect with Keith Lewis Jr. Because I know some of you all on this call, if not all y'all, know his background and his promiscuity, where it led him. But I just basically just chose to be the kind of father with my sons, because I do have two of them. The kind that my father wasn't to me. In other words, he either couldn't stand the heat and left the kitchen, or just that maybe just they weren't equally yoked. But either way, he left. In fact, he said he left, but my mother said he got put out. So, I mean, he said he got put out. My mother said he left. Well, somebody was lying, but we do know the final result was being raised back in the '60s as a single parent, and that was kind of the flip as it is now. It's the other way around now. I remember getting ridiculed. Your daddy isn't home. And you're on welfare, and you got to drink powdered milk and government cheese. And I remember getting teased like that, and I'm sure it affected my personality as well, which I chose not to do. So I'm saying all that to say is that he made me realize that when you take your vows, you take them seriously. I do know that sometimes it's not meant to be, but in most cases, it's usually us who mess up. I mean, I'm just being real. We're usually at fault. But so I just chose to stay. I used to tell Keith, I may not be doing it the rate that you want me to, but I'm doing the right thing because I'm staying, and I go nowhere. There's no quit here. Plus I have a beautiful wife. So why should beautiful in and out? So why should I leave because of you? Because you don't want to respect me. And that's the kind of thing that I ran into with him. But now he's mature now, and we get along just fine. But so I was raised, just to persevere, and and I've been married 40 years. So I must be doing something right. And all because I have a strong support system. She makes me better. She really does. My wife.
It's interesting. What would you, how would you all describe your strategy in terms of parenting and what that's like? What is it like, say, even parenting, sons versus daughters? If you have that experience, but just, what you've learned along the way, because I know you have to make adjustments all the time. And, I'm sure that, just given the nature, even of the field that you're in, Wally, that it's, it's a constant struggle because you see a lot of different things. And we've seen what 2020 has has shown us on so many levels. With black males, particularly, and I'm sure having sons, it's very strong. But what would you say your parenting style or strategy is? And you're muted, Mwab.
I don't have girls, by the way, so I won't be able to comment on that one.
Yeah, I have two boys like Mr. Lewis. So
right.
for me, it has really been about trying to instill manhood with them, put them in the best positions. I coached when they played Little League basketball. I coached AAU with them. I tried to put them in situations where they were around good men. I wasn't one of those dads, even though I played college basketball, my dad played professionally, I wasn't trying to live out my dreams of them playing, college or pro. I just wanted them to learn the game, to enjoy themselves, and to learn about teamwork and becoming men. And I saw different dads do it different ways. And I saw dads invest a whole lot in this game. But I know that the ball stops bouncing at some point, and it does for everybody, no matter how good you are. And so that just couldn't be our sole focal point. So I wasn't, even though we did AAU, I wasn't playing every weekend, and so I lost some of the players like, well, I want to play every weekend. Well, this might not be the squad for you because that's not what I'm trying to do with my sons. I'm trying to treat you the way I want to treat my own son. So it's been an interesting journey. And I've one of the things that I'll say is that I've had to father them a little differently because they're different people, different personalities with different purposes. And they were put on this earth, to fulfill their respective destinies. And I'm trying my best to help with my wife, support her in her mothering as she supports me in my fathering. So it's it ain't easy, but it's real, and it's the most worthwhile work that I've ever been able to be a part of.
Awesome. I think we got Chuck back, so maybe let's try to get Chuck involved in this. And I'm coming back to you, Mr. Lewis.
Can you hear me?
Chuck, we can hear you now, man.
Oh, you can hear me now?
Oh man, that's
cool. Yeah, Chuck.
All right. So am I good?
Yep. Please.
Okay, yeah. So I actually do have a 26-year-old daughter, and I have a 18-year-old son and also a 15-year-old son who's in high school. One's a freshman in college. But it's unique in the situation. There's a lot of fathers out there that my daughter wasn't raised in my home. I had a child with, outside, like I said, I wasn't married. So it's unique. And from a daughter standpoint in this situation where it has a lot to do with, there was years ago, there was a movie that I think it was Richard Pryor had, it was called The Toy, where he played, he was always just the fun, everything he was doing was all about fun when he was taking care of this kid. So from the outside, when you're in a situation that I was in, like a lot of dads that are gonna be watching this, you're almost like the toy, because you don't really have a lot of hand in the discipline part of it because you're a weekend father. You're a summer father, and that makes it tough because when you're raising a kid, you can't always be at every event. You're not going to be there every second when the child is sick. You're not going to be there a lot of times, when there's special moments. So when I say that, use that reference as a toy, meaning that I was just a fun dad. So some of those emotional things that you miss, from raising my daughter, I tried to do my best by instilling the values in her that I had not only from my family, but also my wife, but then also having that fine balance of, we're living different lives. We really are. So I just think from that standpoint, having a girl, and it's unique in that situation because girls need attention. Girls want to, be there with their father. Girls want to experience it. And when you're in that situation, it puts the child in a tough situation. But as a father, what I did is I tried to do the best I can. I tried to be there to support her as much as I can and do all the things and be at the events, do all the different things, as well as have balance with my two sons that, it was, when you're raising a child in your house, it's different. It just is. You cannot recreate as a father when you're not in a home with a child as you're going to do in your home. And that's always been one of those things that I try to balance. And as with my sons being in my house, you know, they get a chance to see the day-to-day, the every second, and I get a chance to do all the little things that my father and my mother did for me. But you know what? I think from a role model standpoint, my mother, my dad was a stepdad. So I had a stepdad. So we also had kids, my brothers that moved in with us. So all the scenario I just told you I've seen in the past. And I think the way my parents, my mom and my dad handled it, let me have a foundation of what I ended up doing when I say that I was a dad that, you know, it was always fun. It was all the kind of things that made us really cool. And I just think there's a fine line and there's a balance. But again, it's a learned experience that I had. So it helped me prepare me as a dad when I did have a child that wasn't living in my home.
Yeah, it's powerful. Mr. Lewis.
Yes, sir.
Definitely enlighten us on your parenting strategy in terms of raising your children.
Well, mine was it was a combination of the influence I had from both my mother and my father. As I mentioned earlier, my mother was the one with the who didn't play. You know, she in terms of discipline, picking out your switches and disciplining you with an extension cord or throwing a shoe at you, whatever she needed to do to get your attention. So I must admit I didn't do all those things that I just referenced to my children, but I did. I was the one with the tough hand, the bad guy, the fall guy, so to speak. But at the same time, I still had a lot of the fun side of me that was shown quite often because, like Chuck said, his father used to play with him, I think, or you were the one who was the playful father, I guess you said, whatever the verbiage you used. But I too was like that. I too got involved with my children. I coached both of them in baseball, and you know, I was always the one who was kidding around and you know, doing fun stuff with them. Not to say my wife didn't, but I did have that side of my personality that showed too. But I did discipline pretty strongly, but I learned over the years. But I will say this also: I did differentiate between both my children because they were different. They're like night and day. You know, Keith is very outspoken and very social, whereas Kendrick is very laid back and just kind of extroverted, if you will. But you know, he still gets out, but not like Keith. So I in turn had to discipline. I didn't have to discipline Kendrick that much because he didn't challenge me. He didn't give me those. He didn't push those buttons. You know, so I was pretty much I gave them the law of the land, and I pretty much let them. I gave them rope in terms of I wanted them to know how to discern and make choices, because I feel like as soon as you are able to make choices, as soon as you learn how to make the right choices, and you see the good things that come out of those correct choices, the better off you'll be in the long run. So I didn't push as much as I probably should have in terms of setting goals and standards, but I learned, and like I used to tell both of my sons, I didn't know how to be a dad, but I never really was taught, you know, about just doing the best I could. So I really didn't have that role model to really look at as far as my father, because he wasn't there during my adult life. So I really didn't know how, you know, I didn't know how to handle certain things. So I just kind of winged it and just let them make choices. I really let them make choices. Either you make the right choice and good things happen, you make the wrong choice and you deal with those consequences. And I was okay with that. So but I do wish I would have had a little bit backed off a little bit, had a little bit more talking to them as opposed to talking at them. And I didn't do enough of that. But I learned over the years to do that, and I know it's paid off.
Well, you make a great point about learning, and I'm sure in parenting, that's something you're always going to have to make adjustments to.
Yeah.
How would you all describe keeping your word with your children and the importance of that? You want to start there, Mwala?
Yeah. I told myself, you know, when my dad left the house in the 8th grade and he came to one high school basketball game of mine, and he didn't make it to any more. And I, you know, I did well enough to play D1 ball, and so that hurt, you know, especially when that's his sport. I started playing just to be close to him, you know. So when my sons, when they made their high school team, I made it. I mean, no matter what case I was on, I said I would never miss one of your games. And my son's junior year, my oldest son's junior year, he gave me the time wrong. And I showed up and I had missed the game. And I literally was in tears. And he was like freaking out, like, what's wrong, Dad? Because the girls played, they had swapped it. The boys played first and the girls played second. So by the time I got there, I was like, man, what happened? And it was a senior, I think it was senior night, but he was a junior though. And so I'm in tears. And he was like, Dad, what's wrong? I was like, man, I told you I'd never miss your game. He was like, it's okay. It's cool. You make all the games. I didn't play that much. They played a lot of the seniors. And, you know, that gave me relief. But keeping your word, you know, I think it sets them up for their own expectations about what life is. That if your own parent won't keep their word to you, then who will? And so I think that's critical. I think it's important. And I tried my best. You know, I committed to, look, you guys go through college. I don't want you worrying about, you know, whatever college you pick, go. If you get a scholarship, that's a blessing. If you don't, we're going to figure it out. We'll take out loans. Because when I was coming through, because my dad had left the house, I had opportunities to go to other schools that, you know, I wanted to go to, but they were Ivy League schools. They didn't give athletic scholarships, even though I was accepted. My mom couldn't afford it. And so I've tried to make that commitment to them. Go wherever you want, you know. It's been costly, but like we try to keep our word on that. And so it's crucial. It's crucial.
That's a blessing, man. Love that story. Chuck.
Well, I think as far as keeping the word is concerned, Osei, I tell you from my two sons who in our home, I got to give a lot of credit to my wife for she set the table really strong. Of some her mom used to always say there were two things my wife tells my sons that she don't like, two things: a liar and a thief. Mm-hmm. And that liar part about keeping your word, my wife set the table. So I'm not going to say I brought that from growing up with, you know, my parents. My parents, again, different time, you know, the grind they had. And so I had to, you know, back then, hey, I done lied and I done stole something. So I ain't gonna act like but I knew, but I didn't have that foundation, even though my parents didn't want me doing it. You know, I had great parents, but you know, but so for my sons, keeping the word, it is what it is, man. We let them experience all the highs, the lows, the good, the bad, all the things that comes with being in a family, you know. And so when they see me fail, or they see my wife have success, or they see their sister, they see people in the community, we always going to keep it, you know, keep it 100% real in real time, and not try to, okay, well, we'll tell them this when they get a little older. Oh, we'll wait now and see if they, you know, they can handle this. No, they got to handle it in the moment, in the time as it is now. And I think that concept my wife brought to the table that I live by now, the liar and the thief, those are two things, man, that we talk about with my sons. Be honest, because the truth is, you know, the high is going to get high, the low is going to get low, and I always encourage them to stay somewhere in between. And so when you look at it like that, and when you have that thought process, you know, you're always want to keep your word, because, you know, I don't have to be the best, and I might want to be lower than the low. But if I stay somewhere in between and I can live my truth, but living in real time, that's big. I want them to experience it and handle it. And if you have some stuff you got to live, and you in the middle of your ish, you got to live and you got to deal in your ish, because it's yours to handle. And if they don't learn how to handle those things now, when they get to be adults, like I see a lot of the young men today, they fall apart when things don't go right. So I want them to know right now how to handle themselves and live in their truth right now and do the things that they need to do. And that answers your question, I hope, Osei.
Absolutely. Mr. Lewis, I see Marvin Arrington on the line. We're going to come to him too. I know we don't have as much time as I wish. This conversation is heating up a little bit. But I definitely want to make sure we roll things around. Mr. Lewis, you want to speak to that?
Yeah, well, I can speak on it real quick. I mean, word is bond. You know, man is no better than their word. And my sons have been taught that. That's what I was taught. And I just don't see any other way for it to be. I've used it. I've also shown it in terms of like all the things he's involved in. When they tell me that they want me to be there. It's not like there's nothing will stop me from being there. And if anything were to stop me, I would definitely call, let them know, and communicate with them. So word is bond. I can give you a real good example in terms of how word is bond to how much I believe in it. One time Keith was, I was supposed to be taking him somewhere. I can't remember where it was. He was probably, I want to say in his teens, maybe, or maybe early 20s. I want to say in his teens. And he was supposed to be, I told him we had arranged for him to be at the house at a certain time. Well, that time came and I left. I passed him up. After I made one turn, I passed him up and I just waved at him. I just waved at him and told him that, you know, you're late, my brother. You know, I mean, here I was, I'm going to do what I want to do now, you know, because you let me down. You gave me your word. So I use that as an example of how much word is bond. So that's how much I believe in it.
Okay, very nice. Marvin Arrington. Oh, you got to unmute yourself. You're muted.
Oh, say what's up, good brother?
How you doing,
good
champ?
evening, everyone. Hey, doing
Hey,
great,
bro.
doing great.
Hey, brother Arrington.
Appreciate you jumping on the line. Did you want to add anything to it?
Man, I'm just really thankful Keith and Jermaine for putting this group together, man, to celebrate fathers that are excited and happy about being fathers. You know, I've got 4 girls, and you know, as everyone else was saying, I try to do all I can to help and support them. But you know, just the idea of putting together a group of fathers that are supporting each other, encouraging each other, it is a phenomenal task, and I'm just thankful to be a part.
Definitely. Being respectful of everybody's time, I know we were a bit limited, but I wanted to ask you all this final question and take it around. But I wanted you all to speak on the images or the image of Black men, Black males, the fatherhood image that we know is probably significantly lacking. A lot of people aren't as fortunate to have necessarily their father in their life. And I think that, you know, it's something we've seen in the media, but I wanted to kind of get your interpretation or your thought process on how Black men look, you know, in 2020 and what we can do to kind of, you know, raise the bar in our own self-image. Whoever would like to start with that.
Commish, why don't you start us off, man? Go ahead, Marv.
Hey, well, you know, I think as fathers, we gotta, you know, particularly looking at the new normal, we gotta reevaluate where we are. We gotta reaffirm ourselves to the standards and commitments that everyone was talking about. Putting your children first, being a father first, and making that the #1 priority. As we look at 2020 and 2021, we know we're going to have to take further steps to lead. Look at what's going on around the country. Our children are leading the fight, but we need our men to be leading this fight. We need the fathers need to be out on the front lines, not the children. So we just got to, I think, reevaluate and reaffirm ourselves and our roles as fathers and our commitment to being fathers first.
Nice. Chuck, you want to take it next?
Sure. I think the first thing is we got to stop letting them dictate what we think is the right way just because we from back in the day. I think we got to be, me personally, I think in what's happened to me, I had to go back to the micromanage days where, because it's so much information coming out, so much bad information coming out right now. Like I keep talking about in real time, I got to talk to you. So when I see a video come out, yeah, it's hot, it's getting 1 million views, but let me tell you, son, let me just tell you how we would call that's kind of whack, man. So the way they talk and the way they dress and the way they carry themselves, that might be cool right now on social media, but as a man, I don't ever want you to think as my son that's right. So for me, I think we got to get back to also not being afraid that, oh, he gonna be mad at me. Oh, or she gonna be mad at me as a parent, because again, there's so much information coming out so fast. Who gonna be there to differentiate what's good and what's bad? Okay, so okay, in the back nowadays, oh, let's give them a little rope. So me and my wife, we've taken it back. Now I'm taking it back. Hey man, I don't care if you get tired of me talking hear what I'm talking about. I'm telling you that what I see is right, and I'm telling you what I see is wrong. And at the end of the day, it's up to you to take that information and be compliant and follow the rules. So there are rules to it. So I try to set the groundwork of what are the rules to the game. Here go the rules. Some things, hey, just ain't the way. It might be cool to you and your boys. Y'all might be doing all this stuff, but I don't care. I'm not going to let the culture change what I know is right and wrong. So when they say we old school, there's some things, man, that never change. They will never change. The respect when you're talking to women, how you carry yourself, all the other little things you do when you ain't around. So a lot of people have backed off. But I think as men, hey, man, we got to keep putting our pedal to the metal and saying, you know what? I know what's right, and I'm going to put you in position to be successful. Here's the blueprint. If you're successful, if you fail, but you have the blueprint, but I'm not going to back off. I'm not going to turn it down and let the culture of today tell me, well, yeah, that's how y'all used to do it. Well, looking at all you guys here on this video, it's had some success. And I think that's the blueprint that I'd like to see. And that's what I teach my sons and a lot of young NFL players that are around me. Hey, man, this is how certain things work. And hopefully you understand it. But this is the way I am, and I'm not going to change.
Okay, awesome. Can we take it to you, Mr. Lewis, before we close out with Wally?
Oh, yes. Our role is very direct. We definitely, I agree with Brother Smith and what you said as far as we got to meet them, and we can't be afraid of them. I don't back down from them. I talk their talk, but at the same time, I still talk my talk. You know, I don't differentiate from that. And what I've learned is, and I alluded to it earlier, there's a difference between talking to someone and at someone. And that's one of the things I learned from most of the generation of this generation, the Generation X or whatever, millennials, whatever category you want to put it in. They don't like to be talked at. They want to be talked to because they want to, you know, they feel respected. They want to be respected. They want you to respect them. And that's what I learned. If you respect them and treat them and show, like there's an old adage that says, they say children, but I think it also involves people. If people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, and that's got to come across. They got to see it in your eyes. They got to see it in your actions. They got to just and the more they see it, and we have to be visible. The more visible we are with platforms such as this or anything on that nature in the school system. I'm a retired school teacher. I really wasn't that smart. I just know how to connect with kids. I used to have some of the worst kids in my class. But when they got around me, I was able to kind of put the flame down a little bit, you know, and maybe even put it out because I talked to them and not at them. And I understood their pain. And I also gave them true testimonies. I was very transparent as to what I did and did not do and what I learned. And all these things have to be communicated with this generation. We, as men, black men, successful black men that we are, we gotta get this message across to them in whatever platform we can, because we all have different talents. We all have something different we can bring to the table. We got an attorney here, a former football star, radio. I'm just an average guy. I never did anything big, but I have a big heart, but I did it big in my own way. That's my point. And it wasn't to discredit myself. I'm just saying everyone has a talent and something they can bring to the table.
That's right.
As fathers.
And Mr. Lewis, I'm sure there are young men out there right now that said because of you, they're on the path that they're on. And those are the big things, because what we are able to do, just giving contact and access to young people, is really help shape and direct them so that they don't go down certain paths, so that they can what real Black manhood looks like. And so to your question, Osei, man, I've been super blessed in terms of the Black men that I've been around in Atlanta in particular, but also the brothers that I grew up with in Chicago. It's just, I guess, if it's who you want to surround yourself with, right? If I wanted to surround myself with a different kind of cat, then sure. But the brothers from Let Us Make Man to the fraternity to 100, you know, to Black Man Lab to I'm a Father First, I've just been blessed to be able to connect with brothers in the community. And really, we need that for our sons. Because see, my sons are at an age now, I really have to call on Unc. You know, I say, hey man, call nephew up, man, and holler at him because I'm ready to lay hands. So you talk, and you know, talk some sense to this boy. You know, I've had Greg Street as recently as 2 weeks ago, man, because my son's making decisions in the music space and law. And so I'm like, hey, G, this is your space, man. He's not listening to me. He don't think I know nothing about nothing. Can you help? And he did. And I can give a number of testimonies where brothers in community have just leaned in. But I think it's reciprocity because I've tried my best to be available for brothers, whether, you know, I knew their dads or not. And so I think what I see and I want the world to see more of is the I'm a Father First model. That here are two young brothers from Southwest Atlanta who said, we're going to help father fatherless boys on the Southwest side of Atlanta. Man, they just did that. When I first met Jermaine and Todd, that attracted me to them. I'm like, y'all real cats. I'm with y'all. And so that's what we have to do. Those of us that have been blessed to have the opportunities that all of us have had is to just keep reaching and pulling these young brothers along. And I believe we're going to continue to build community that way.
Man, I appreciate all the transparency, brothers, man. This has been a powerful conversation. OG Munson, Steve, thank you, man.
Yeah, no, it's been great to listen to. Thanks to all the fathers for participating. Father First is really key. I think it's really father coach. Everybody's in the father coach club, whether you want to be in it or not, you're in a coach club. So I think, Chuck, I tell everybody, you know, your lens is going to change your entire life. And as a brother, just coach the best you can and be the best father coach that you can. Whether it's your child, whether you uncle that day or you know, grandfather that day, just coach somebody in a way and then let them play the game. They score, they win, they lose. At least they got a brother who said, hey, brother, just pump your brakes. Hey, brother, slow down. Hey, brother, you're doing great. Hey, brother, I love you. Our language is Father First. Our language is brother is putting the word Father in our mouths and saying it, wearing it, being able to walk around with it on your chest so that it's clear that there may not be a ton of brothers, but you've seen now a brother and we're not invisible. That's what I love about this movement, that it's not an invisible movement. It's a movement that is taking shape and it's definitely getting a spirit. And I think that that's what I love about the young men and the gentlemen here, that we do believe in the proposition and that we're all doing and playing our part to coach our community and to coach for the better good. So thanks so much, gentlemen, for coming and rolling out a seat at the table.
Yeah,
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Peace.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, y'all, brothers. Be blessed.
Yeah.
All right, Marvin, great job, everybody. Father First is a movement. It is not a t-shirt. It's more than that. These young men are changing lives. They're dedicated to changing lives. And it is a community movement. You can see from the individuals that have come here from all walks of life, but professionals, kind. You know, I really loved the idea of Chuck sharing. Honestly, look, you're going to play by my rules or not. And many need to understand that there are rules to this game. There are rules to engagement. The better you know the rules, the better you can play this game. And it's called life. So want to thank Fathers Folks. Want to thank Chuck. Did a great job in letting people know.
Thank you.
I do believe people need to understand there are rules. And if you don't understand that, then you miss the whole game. And before you know it, tag, you're it, and they putting you away. So I think we need to all get that. So for me, that's great. It's good to see you, and I enjoyed you gentlemen coming on a seat at the table. Thanks so much.
All right, Keith, Marvin, Munson, appreciate y'all, man. God bless.
Thanks, brother. Peace.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is a phenomenal evening. Fatherhood is a huge effort for all of us to enjoy and to bond with. Having accountability partners, having brothers that you could share the experience with, whether it's your child, whether you're being a surrogate father, it is a phenomenal opportunity. Each and every day we work here at a seat at the table to make this community's vision be realized. The vision and accomplishments of our entire community are based on us coming to the table, having conversations, coalescing ideas. The idea of Father First picks up with two young men who are beginning to move this entire community forward with an ideology that just says and rings of how committed they are to community service, to changing the narrative and creating a new narrative for Father First. Here, we've got great new information coming and a surprise guest this evening who will be one of the best that you've ever heard and seen, a young millennial on the path of increased greatness. I am so excited to meet and share with you my next guest here on A Seat at the Table. How are you?
I'm well. How are you doing today?
I'm not as important as you today, but you know.
I don't know about that one.
Well, I can say that. You on my show, you know.
Oh, all right, all right.
I can lift you up. Come on.
Thank you. I receive it. Thank you.
Receive it. Tell everybody who you are.
Hey, everyone. My name is Ramesh Akbari. I'm a state senator in Memphis, Tennessee, and I also am the Senate Democratic Caucus chairwoman in the Tennessee State Senate.
So for all of you, welcome to A Seat at the Table. I really think that it's not even near you guys. This is a beautiful young future mover and shaker, a talented change agent who represents a beautiful example of our generation taking the helm, being unafraid to move forward. So it's easy for you to say that, but just a couple of days ago, I watched you perform on the national stage to make us all super proud. So, and I don't think that's your first time on that stage.
No, so I spoke in 2016 at the Democratic National Convention, which was really cool. I did not expect to be asked, and when I was, it was just an awesome experience. I got to hang out with all the other delegates. My mom was there. She said she was ugly crying while she watched it. And then just a few days ago, I was fortunate to be able to join 16 other folks who are pegged as rising leaders in the Democratic Party, and we delivered a joint keynote address on Tuesday. So it was really neat to get to connect with folks from across the country who are trying to lead in their state houses and other bodies of government. So super exciting, cool to be a part of the process, and just thankful.
You know, I love humility, but just not on my show. And we need to give access and want to say thank you for all that you do. It is not easy just to be there in Tennessee. Memphis is easy, but outside of Memphis, it's not the same.
Yeah.
We know that you know, it's a real fight. But tell people insights, because you're saying it just matter of factly and by, you know.
Okay, all right. I'll break it down.
You know, 2016, for all the young women who are aspiring to do what you, Kamala Harris, First Lady Michelle Obama, what's the call like when you get the call? And then how do you prepare your speech in 2016? how do you coordinate in your mind so that you and all the young ladies who are fashionistas going to want to know how you prepare and decide what to wear? See that you got your hair all supernatural and beautiful. So just give them like when the phone rings and you get the first call.
Right. So I was excited. I tried not to show it on the phone call. I'm like, oh yes, sure, okay, thank you. I can do that. I'll look for the email. And then I call my parents, and I have a twin sister. So I called them and I'm like, guys, guess what? I'm speaking at the convention. And it was neat because I was not a delegate. I was an alternate delegate in 2016. So I couldn't even get a floor pass to kind of get in there. And then all of a sudden I'm actually speaking on the floor. So so that was neat. I was going to wear a black dress with my Hillary Clinton pin, and I have a tribe of my seasoned ladies. They were from South Carolina and Alabama and Florida, and they said, Agberry, did you see it? They're probably about 40 years older than me, and they said, Agberry, did you see anybody else out there in all black? You see all these girls with all these colors on? So I quickly ordered the same style dress, a different color, red, and it arrived the morning I was supposed to speak. So that was a neat part of the wonder and the fear, like, will it come in time? But I'm telling you, when you are actually at the convention, it's, everyone looks so good because you have a whole glam squad. Like, I'm being all Memphis and country, like, hey, do you have a safety pin? I need to button this up a little bit. And they brought someone from wardrobe who matched thread to my dress and sewed me in. I'm like, oh, okay. So, but the funny thing is when they take your backstage pass, you're like, back to normal, back to reality. But it was neat to do it. We were all curious. All my friends were like, what music are they going to have you walk out to? And I didn't know, but it was Beyonce. So I thought, this is super cool. It was a great experience. My little 3.5 minutes of fame, but it was neat because I could really kind of tell people the consequences of not voting for Hillary Clinton. And I think we're living with that now. And then fast forward to now, we're trying to get Joe Biden and Kamala Harris elected.
So a couple of rules of engagement here at a seat at the table. There are no tries. We're either going to do it or we're not going to do it. So
okay.
we are going to get Joe Biden and our sister, Senator Harris, in.
Oh, yeah.
The feeling when you finally knew and recognized and heard her accept the vice presidency nomination, what went through your mind? And how did you transform and imagine yourself someplace on that stage one day?
Well, honestly, I'll paint the picture. When I found out that Senator Harris was going to be the pick, I was sitting in the Commerce Committee in the Tennessee Senate. I'm the only Black woman on the panel. I'm the only Democrat on the panel. And I get this news and I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to grill this guy on this awful bill he's running. But they just announced that Senator Harris, they're going to make history for the first time ever. They'll have a Black woman, a woman with South Asian roots that's going to be the vice president of the next vice president. So I was thrilled. Fast forward to seeing her make her remarks and the fact that she paid tribute to the women who have fought so hard and so bravely before us, like Fannie Lou Hamer and like Shirley Chisholm. She was keenly aware of the shoulders that she stood on. And I think for people like me and for, folks across the spectrum who want to be involved in politics, Kamala Harris, Senator Harris, is one of those people. She is blazing a trail that I think a lot of folks never thought was possible. She's shattering a ceiling that we've been waiting a long time to see shattered. And so seeing her on that stage, making those remarks, speaking her truth and telling us about who she was and what she'll be as a vice president, it was thrilling, honestly. And I felt like at that moment, any Black woman who wanted to do anything in politics was keenly aware that we no longer will have a seat behind the scenes, but our seat is at the table. And not only at the table, but possibly at the head of the table.
Yeah, I love that. And at the same time, the mind frame that are in community, not just for women, for all of us, to understand that there's new menus being handed out, that individuals now will at least have something that we want to eat on the table and can dream on that table. So when you were there, and I'm sure you've met her. Have you met her?
Senator Harris? Yes. Okay. Yes, I've met her. She has not met me yet. So it was one of those, it's a big event. And yeah, I met her. We got our little moment, but that was a moment for me. But she had probably 1,000 more that day. So.
So what are you saying to all the individuals that you speak to about when they question whether she's the one?
I say, listen, I mean, one, the alternative is horrific. That's number one. But I never believe you should just vote against something. You should also have something to vote for. And for me, I think that in this weird and awful environment we find ourselves in under the Trump administration, Senator Harris has stood tall and has stood bold. She has not let them get away with anything on it in her role as a committee member in the Senate. And even when she ran for president, she was able to connect with folks, women, little girls, people who see themselves in her. And I think that that is a big deal. She is a counterbalance to Vice President Biden, who is older and has been in politics for a lot longer. And I think that they make a really good team. So I tell folks, come on, get on board. We have to make sure that they win in November. I hope everyone remembers how they felt the night Donald Trump won. I certainly do. I was on a live news broadcast and someone caught a picture of me and had my white suit on, was suffrage white, my blue Democratic nails, and I was ready to see the first woman become president. And I'm looking there like, I'm trying not to it was awful. So I hope that folks will remember the feeling they felt that night and understand that we cannot stay in the moment in the administration we're in, because if we reelect this man or they reelect this man, it will be basically a referendum saying everything that he's been doing for the last 3.5 years is okay. And we all know it's not okay. So get on board, work as hard as you can. Your life, Michelle Obama said it, and she said we have to vote like our life depends on it. And that's because it truly does.
Well, I like that, but got to have more insight because you're a legislator. What are we missing? What by in the last 3 years, I think some people can't take a real inventory.
Yeah.
Their wills just aren't where you are. You're legislating. You're literally there, hearing the conversations, knowing that there are bad bills being passed while this administration is smiling, forcing, and just mention some of the bills that you know are going to state houses based on this administration.
Oh, for sure. I mean, one, there's a complete crackdown, and it's really kind of ugly, the policies that they're trying to enact towards those who are immigrants or undocumented folks. Definitely state houses are trying to address that in a negative way, those that are Republican controlled, taking away the right to vote, making it more difficult to vote, trying to consolidate voting centers, of course, requiring that you have a state ID, allowing you to use a gun permit, but not allowing you to use a state issued student ID. Those are some of the issues. Certainly this tough on crime mentality. Donald Trump will talk about criminal justice reform, and they were able to get through the legislature and he signed it, a really comprehensive bill. But in the same token, he's sending federal troops to areas to try and incarcerate folks. He is tear gassing protesters and demonstrators who are just crying out to be heard. I mean, he has completely made us a laughingstock on the international stage. I've participated in a couple of fellowships through the German Marshall Fund, and I was in Brussels at the Brussels Forum the night he announced tariffs on our allies in Europe. And they thought, surely he'll change his mind. They were all so polite. The very next year, they were like, this man, he does not know what he's doing. He has picked fights with our allies in the European Union, with Germany, with France, and instead he's embracing dictators like Putin in Russia, North Korea, and China. I mean, it's completely unlike what we've been. We haven't seen anything so destructive since before World War II. And then that's the real deal. Donald Trump wants to take away your health care. He wants to make it more difficult for you to vote. He has yet to pass an infrastructure plan that will help support our roads across this country. And he and his goons are doing something far more dangerous than anybody really pays attention to. And that is filling the federal bench with lifetime appointees who are completely unqualified for the jobs that they hold. And that literally will impact us for decades, whether we're talking about the enforcement of certain rules or laws, or we're just talking about cases in general. It is a really serious matter.
Think it's serious, huh?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
I'm not certain our community understands, and I think we need to. This fake news. There's a lot of fake news going on about our ticket.
Yeah.
And I think that I'm really concerned about this Kanye running for president. What are your thoughts on that?
I am happy that across the country, you're seeing Kanye being kicked off of ballots. In Tennessee, we have a very prominent family, the Ford family. For whatever reason, a couple of them have helped him file a ballot in Tennessee. But in Wisconsin, you saw him removed from the ballot. In Iowa and Ohio, I think he was just removed today. So these states that these Republican operatives are targeting and using whatever mental illness that Kanye West is going through right now to put him on these ballots is really, it is so 2020, as people say. But I'm hoping that the states where we really have small margins and we have to win them, to continue to see this trend where Kanye's kicked off the ballot. I mean, it's complete and utter foolishness. He embraced the Make America Great Again. I mean, Kanye has a song that says, I miss the old Kanye. I miss the old Kanye because when he first came out with College Dropout, I was in college. We all loved him. All the dudes in my class stopped wearing the jerseys and they started wearing button-ups and polo shirts, and they were all on their grown man stuff. And then I don't know what happened to Kanye. I mean, I don't want to make light of the fact that he clearly is suffering with some sort of mental illness, but it's very important that he is not on ballots in states that really, really matter, like Pennsylvania, like Michigan, like Ohio, like Wisconsin, even Georgia, Texas, and certainly Florida. So I'm hoping that he will continue to be removed from these ballots for fraud. I mean, that's what it is.
Yes. Breonna Taylor. What are your
Right.
thoughts?
I mean, arrest the killers of Breonna Taylor. Breonna Taylor was a paramedic who was in her home sleep, and these officers, these no-knock warrants, completely not in any sort of police uniform, they storm into her house, initially charging her boyfriend for defending his domain. I am quite frankly so frustrated with the Attorney General in Kentucky. I think that he is the clear example of elections having consequences. I understand that you have to do a thorough investigation. You cannot bend to the wind and the waves when it comes to prosecuting and making sure justice is served. But it's been so long. I mean, what more does he need? And I'm happy that there are activists and folks who are staying there and refusing to leave Kentucky until justice is served. I think it's awesome that Oprah has jumped in and not only purchased these billboards across the country, but has also, for the first time in 20 years, put somebody else besides herself on the cover with putting Breonna Taylor on there. It's a clear example that justice does not always serve for all people. Is it justice or is it just us? I mean, I am tired of us having to say, arrest the killers of Breonna Taylor. And I'm hoping that pressure will not let up. People will not forget, and I don't think they will. See, the thing about what happened with George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor, it is not like what has happened in the past. These are not just movements. People say it's not a moment, it's a movement. But I believe that to be true. It folks, people say they're woke, but this really woke folks up. And I even look in Tennessee at the Capitol, most of the people who are out there protesting are young white folks. So if it becomes real for people besides just African Americans who have to live it every day, then that's when I think folks will have to make a change. And that's what I'm going to keep pushing for. I'm not going to be dissuaded. No matter what happens in the legislature, no matter what happens in Tennessee, we cannot give up. We cannot let the pressure up.
So you had Breonna Taylor, and then you have superstars like Tamika Mallory, who's there on the front line, part of that movement. You also have young ladies like yourself. How did law school prepare you for what you're dealing with now?
Well, I think a lot of folks in my legislature don't even read their legislation. So going to law school, I knew how to do that. I knew that there were certain things that, the court has to interpret because the law is not clear or the legislative history is not clear. So I think that helped me. It helped me with critical thinking and being able to see both sides of an argument and to reach a conclusion. And certainly it prepared me to read a lot. And write a lot. Unknown. Most people think that we write our own legislation. We do not, which is a good thing because we come up with the ideas and then we meet with legal and they write it and then we review it and it's a back and forth process. But I really do think law school prepared me for that. Certainly the critical thinking and being able to see both sides of the argument for sure.
Is the state ready for a new Black female U.S. senator there in Tennessee?
I hope so, but Tennessee is so red, and part of it is because we're gerrymandered, so that's how our districts wind up. But a statewide seat does not fall victim to gerrymandering. 2 years ago, we had our our last Democrat elected governor run, he had millions of dollars into the race from himself and then also from folks all over. And he still lost to someone like Marsha Blackburn, who is now the first woman ever elected to the U.S. Senate from our state, which is just really horrible. Marquita Bradshaw was not expected to win the primary, and she did, and I'm so proud of her. She focuses on environmental justice. She's a true activist. And folks are starting to rally behind her and trying to raise money, but it's very difficult in Tennessee to compete on a statewide level if you don't have access to millions of dollars, and also just dealing with the Trump factor. And this person who's a Republican nominee, not only was he a Trump, he was with the administration in the state as a commissioner. Trump made him the ambassador to Japan, and then Trump announced that he was running for Senate. He didn't even announce it himself. So I think it's going to be difficult, but we're not going to give up. Anything can happen. Like, it's 2020. Okay. Anything can happen. I don't know what is going to happen next, but hopefully it's something positive. So we're going to rally behind Marquita. We're going to raise her some money, and we're going to hopefully, at least if she doesn't win, she can at least show folks that Black women have something to say and that our votes will be counted.
So when you see a woman like Michelle Obama, what impact is she having on all of you and other young women as it relates to her legacy? She's remained very active, even post, I think probably the most active first lady in the history of our country. What do you think her legacy is that she's building on right now?
I mean, Michelle Obama was a dynamic first lady. She really thought outside of the box, even in that position. So her post-White House life, I think every Black woman in America, and many white women too, want Michelle to be their best friend. I mean, she's frank, she's funny. We love the insight that she provides through her podcast. Her book was amazing. I actually tried to go to her book tour twice, and one fell on Mother's Day, so I had to sell my ticket because I couldn't get to it. I'm like, Mother's Day special, I won't miss that. But Michelle Obama is amazing. And I think she's really creating a legacy of speaking out, speaking up, using her platform for something good. She didn't just go home and, live her life and vacation and do things like that. Instead, she's trying to create, I think, a platform where she can reach out and really help build up and lift up women and girls across this country. So I think Michelle is awesome. Her speech was awesome at the DNC. It was frank. It was straightforward. It was almost like you had somebody's mother saying, listen, I know you tried your best, but you're just not qualified. And that she was talking to Donald Trump. So, I mean, I would not be surprised if she's not the most popular woman in America. And I'm here for it. I think it's beyond time.
I love that. So you're giving a graduation speech. Not that you'd be in front of anybody, I guess, anymore, but at Spelman or at Howard. What would be the title of your speech, and what would you encourage this next generation to understand about what they need to do?
Well, I'm telling you something. Shirley Chisholm is one of my role models, the first Black woman elected to Congress. Here in Tennessee, we have yet to elect a Black woman to Congress. And it's been 50 years since Congresswoman Chisholm was elected. And one of my favorite quotes of hers is, if they don't give you a seat at the table, bring a folding chair. So that would be the name of my speech. And I would encourage them to be confident in the qualifications that they have, the life experience, what they bring. And if folks discount you or discredit you, you have to keep fighting, keep moving forward, keep doing your thing, keep demanding that you're heard, and claiming your seat at the table. When I was elected to the legislature, I was 29. Some people still call me Baby Rep. That's my nickname. But now I'm in the Senate. I'm the Democratic Caucus Chair. I'm in leadership. And I really just try to be a force in my own way. And that's what I would suggest to them. Don't let anyone set your own agenda. Pull that folding chair up. Demand that you be heard. Use every tool in your toolbox, and never give up.
Never give up.
Never give up.
I love that. So when you think about the second half of Michelle Obama and you listen to what he had to say, what was he encouraging us to understand?
He was encouraging us to understand that this is serious. It's not a game. It's not okay to sit down and sit back and not be involved. There's someone in office who wants to destroy our very way of life. He has made no effort to contain the COVID crisis. He has made no effort to listen to anyone who's talking about racial injustice in this country. And we have to make a plan and we have to vote, because at the end of the day, and she didn't say this, but I'll say it for her, Donald Trump is a personification of a mediocre white man. There are people who are jumping through hoops who are so much more qualified, and yet he is able to sit at the highest office in this country. And Michelle Obama was saying specifically, he's not qualified, he shouldn't be there, and it's up to us to do what we can to get him out of there.
I like that. But it just seemed like she was a surgeon. It's the invisible knife. The entire time. You don't have.
She was, yeah. That was a masterful speech. She didn't have to call him out. She didn't have to belittle him, but she was just like, matter of fact, it is what it is.
And you're not qualified.
Yep, you're just not qualified. Bless your heart. In the South, we would say, bless your heart.
I love that. And I love that you still smile and are happy about what you're doing in terms of changing the community, and very hopeful. Writing many books now?
You said, am I writing any books? Not yet. I have a legislator who retired in Georgia, and she asked me to write a chapter in one of her books. I'm reading a bunch of books. I keep buying books that I have no time to read, but I still keep buying them. So I haven't written anything yet. I think my story is still being told. We'll see, but maybe one day.
I don't know. 36 is probably a good time to kind of capture it. I don't know that it would be a memoir, but maybe something like They Said We Couldn't Do It. I mean,
I like that. Look, I have a sticky note. I'm going to write that down. They said we couldn't do it.
Well, I think for a lot of people, I had a lot of friends that really were shocked when they began to see the young people go on the streets and stay on the streets, and you're making us look bad. One of my friends, I said, who are they making look bad? I said, this is just not your movement. I think that the communities had to accept the fact that this is finally the first time we're going to recognize the accomplishments, the contributions, and the true valor of Black women.
Yeah, I'm with you. I agree. I mean, I think it kind of came more to the consciousness of the Democratic Party when Black women carried Doug Jones in Alabama. But now it's time out. I mean, with having Senator Harris at the vice president, one heartbeat away from the highest office in the land, and certainly seeing how women like Tamika Mallory and like Brittany Packnett are organizing folks like Jotega Eddy, who push forward with the Trust Black Women, Elect Black Women, that whole thing that pushed for a Black woman to be put at the Democratic ticket. I mean, folks are stepping from behind the scenes and they're making it known.
Yeah, I like that. But I think that we have always imagined Black women, unfortunately, as the help, the supporter. And I think that it's taken many by surprise, and I've had to even form individuals that Black women established. Black Lives Matter.
Right.
And we need to continue to elevate and support and be comfortable in that.
Yeah,
So
I think so.
A new truth that we're having to, from a cultural perspective, give respect and really celebrate and understand you might be sitting in the back seat and they'll be in both seats, passengers to set, being the next person kind of driving from the back and hoping that you get to say where we're going to go, while the co-pilot and the pilot will actually be driving and they'll be Black women. I love the idea. I see it when I look at you. I think that we have undermined the power of Black women, and this is the moment that we can actually get behind it. What are your thoughts?
I agree. I agree with you wholeheartedly, and I've kind of seen it across the spectrum. You have some folks who are not happy that, and I'm talking about Black folks who are not happy that there's a Black woman that is going to be our next vice president. But I have seen Black men stepping up and defending and saying, listen, y'all want to say you support Black women, you protect Black women, you love Black women, but now you have an opportunity for a Black woman to be almost in our highest office in the land. What are you talking about? How could you not support her? How could you vote for Donald Trump? I mean, how could you not vote for Stacey Abrams in Georgia? What is going on? And I think they're being called out on it. It's not quite cancel culture, but I definitely think folks are calling them out. And I appreciate it. I hope it will actually change their mind and hearts, though, and they won't be hardened and want to still go in the direction they're going in. But I think it's one of those movements that you can't defeat. So you have to jump on board.
Yeah, I see it all the way around. I see it with the young women like you. I see it not just in whether it's the VP. I just think the entire movement, Black Power movement, has made us take a new inventory on what it means. And she means a lot.
Yeah.
She is a lot. Mm-hmm. She is the most on many occasions. Like, recognize she's the most.
Right. I'm with you 100%. I want them to adopt it and get on board. I'm with you.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you taking time to have a seat at the table. We're very, very proud. I want to say you continue to make us proud, and we thank you for coming on and spending time with us. And anytime you want to drop us an op-ed, we'll take one so that we can continue here at Rolling Out to see the geniuses and young leaders that have such valor and vision.
Thank you, and I definitely will. I've appreciated the conversation. Thank you
so much. Peace.
All righty, take care.
As I told you, the most inspiring young woman in young leadership, know that you will always find them here at a seat at the table. We want to thank everybody for coming this evening. And remember, you do not have to be in the struggle. No, you do not have to be in the street, but you do have to be in the struggle. I'm Munson Steve. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you next week here at a seat at the table.